Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends. Welcome to day one of official Oath of the Gatewatch spoilers. So today we have 13 brand new cards to take a look at, as well as some confirmation of some previous leaks, as well as some new art on some other cards that have already been spoiled by Wizards. So before we jump into that, just want to let you know every day for the next 2 weeks, at least every weekday, we will be seeing spoilers from Wizards, and every day we'll have an analysis video for you any day that we get spoilers. Leading up to a week from Friday when the whole set will be spoiled, and we will begin our full set review, get you ready for the pre-release. So if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, definitely a good time to do so. Having said that, let's jump into all the new stuff. First, we're going to look at the Oath of the Gatewatch packaging. We have the Fat Pack, the booster box here, as well as the packaging for intro decks. Over here we get another look at the booster box and the Fat Pack, and also here's what the boosters look like. And finally, here's the intro packs. We actually do have all 5 of these cards spoiled, so we'll take a closer look at them in just a moment. And the first 3, we actually have their Oath of the Gatewatch art, so you're going to see some different art for those cards as well. Wizards also went ahead, like I mentioned, and showcased a few alternate versions of cards. Now, these are the non-full art versions of Waste. In a previous video, we looked at the full art versions of Waste, which you'll find normally in Oath of the Gatewatch. These will be in some side products, no doubt. And next we have Endbringer. Again, this has already been spoiled, and we've talked about it in a previous video, but that version was a promo art version. So this is the actual Oath of the Gatewatch version of the card. Now that brings us to 3 cards that were spoiled in the leak, but now are finally being officially confirmed by Wizards. The first one is Crumbling Vestige. The second is Mirror Pool. And the third is Unknown Shores, which I believe is a reprint from Theros, if I'm not mistaken. So we've talked about those again in a previous video. Check out the playlist if you'd like to learn more about those cards we just looked at. But now let's jump into the brand new stuff. First, we have Spatial Contortion. I like the name of that. 1 colorless and 1 generic. It's an instant. Target creature gets +3/-3 until end of turn. Now, this is at the uncommon level, which is pretty cool. This is very, very strong and limited. I'd love to draft a number of these. I'd be very happy to get some of these passed to me. Also very good in sealed. Is it strong enough for removal purposes in standard? Right now, no, but we don't know what standard is going to look like post rotation, so don't lose sight of this card. If a lot of small creatures or maybe some white weenie wide strategies become popular in standard, and those strategies seem to be getting pushed, as you're going to see as we go through these cards, then this card could potentially see some standard play in the future, so time will tell. But regardless, this is a very, very nice limited card. It's going to get rid of a lot of threats with 3 or less toughness. Next we have Walker of the Waste, and this will cost a colorless and 4 generic. It's an Eldrazi 4/4 with trample, and it gets a +1/+1 for each land you control named Waste. Paying 5 for a 4/4 trample, not super exciting, not even in limited. There's probably better things you could be doing with 5 mana. Especially considering the fact that you are forcing yourself to get a colorless source to cast this, which makes it more like a colored card, if you will, as far as difficulty to cast. But if you have some wastes in your deck, this becomes a lot better. So if you're running at least 2 wastes, maybe you're able to draft a few of them, or you just happen to get lucky and open a bunch in your sealed pool, then this card becomes much better for your limited deck. Next we have Munda's Vanguard, 1 white, a 4 colorless. It's a core knight ally 3/3, and it has a new mechanic called Cohort. Basically, you tap this and tap an untapped ally you control, and that's what Cohort is. In this case, you get an ability which is put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So again, this is all about going wide, and paying 5 for a 3/3. Not super exciting unless I am planning on going really wide with a lot of small creatures, maybe a lot of tokens, some sort of token generation, like a Awakening Zone type effect. Then this becomes a lot better. So this probably won't be great in all limited decks, even though it is a rare. This might be your rare, and it just might not do anything in your particular pool, and that's kind of the way it goes. But this could be a very good commander card, I will say, and also in the right limited deck. If you are able to draft a strategy where you go very wide, this becomes much better. Next we have Shoulder to Shoulder with another new mechanic. 1 white, 2 colorless. This is a sorcery with support 2. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures and then you draw a card. So we'll see at least one more support card in these spoilers, but again, it's just really going along with the synergy of you're going real wide, maybe lots of small cheap creatures. So that's very interesting. And from a theming point of view, a lore point of view, it really kind of shows everyone from Zendikar coming together and building each other up, supporting each other, if you will. There you have it. And I like it. I like the idea. Again, probably a better card for maybe the right commander deck or the right limited deck. You're going to have to draft the right deck for this to be good for you. But I do like the fact that you do get 2+1/+1 counters, and you get to cycle for 3. That's not a bad card. It's at the common level. Stonehaven Outfitters, 1 white, 1 colorless, core artificer ally 2/2. Equipped creature you control gets +1/+1. Whenever an equipped creature you control dies, draw a card. So this is interesting to me now. We haven't seen really a whole lot of equipment. There's a few pieces in Battle for Zendikar. My assumption is we're going to see some more in this set, or perhaps even in Innistrad. But I don't know. This is a rare. I mean, paying 2 for a 2/2, it's a bear. It's just fine. It's a bear with upside. And it is an ally. You don't want to forget about that either when you're building your deck in limited. But it's hard to evaluate this card until we see more of the set and we know what kind of equipment is out there. In some ways, this feels like kind of a spiritual successor to Stoneforge Mystic, or maybe a little callback to Stoneforge Mystic. And if that's the case, this card might just be in here just to kind of play on that. Now, having said that, this could be a great commander card in the right commander deck if you're playing with a lot of equipment. It's going to help you get some card draw, boost your creatures that are equipped, so it definitely has some potential there. Comparative Analysis, 1 blue, 3 generic, and this is an instant with Surge, and the Surge cost is 1 blue and 2 generic. And as a reminder, if you haven't seen the previous videos, basically what Surge is if you or a teammate has cast another spell this turn, you can play this for its Surge cost. Really cool in two-headed giant competition, which many stores will be doing at least for part of the time during their pre-release weekend. And this one, target player draws 2 cards. So paying 4 for instant speed to draw 2 cards, yeah, that's okay. That's pretty much where we've landed that's going to cost us, I think. The fact that you can do it at instant speed is pretty awesome. So I do like that. As far as Surge goes, it's really difficult to evaluate that until we see some of the 1 and 2 drops that will be available to us in this set, and we really haven't got to that point yet. So it's really hard to say, how economical Surge is going to be. It's going to be great in two-headed giant. So if you're playing in a two-headed giant pre-release, Surge is going to be awesome. But we don't really know one-on-one what that's going to look like yet. So on its own, though, it's still a good card. You could still fit this into some of your limited decks. If there's a really dedicated control deck out there in Standard that emerges maybe post-rotation, this could run a copy or 2. I wouldn't be shocked to see this in that particular deck. Next we have Deep Fathom Skulker, and this is the intro deck art for this particular card. So at some point we'll see some different art in the future. But it costs 1 blue, 5 generic. It's a 4/4 Eldrazi with Devoid, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Pay a colorless and 3 generic. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. So you're paying 6 for a 4/4 that on its own doesn't have evasion. That's not super exciting. Now, if I have dedicated colorless and 3 generic mana to throw at this thing, I can make this unblockable and maybe draw some cards off it. I can make another bigger creature unblockable, maybe a couple of creatures if I have enough mana. So it becomes better as you go along. But this isn't going to really work in every limited deck. Some limited decks, this will be fantastic, especially if you're going big and with a lot of ramp. This will be awesome. It's going to help you get your big creatures across, maybe help you get some card draw. It will be great in that style of deck, but it's not going to be great in every single deck. If you're getting a 4/4 for 6 and you don't have the resources to consistently pull off the can't be blocked ability, then this becomes a lot worse. Next we have Dread Defiler, 1 black, 6 generic, and this is an Eldrazi 6/8 with Devoid, and it has an ability 1 colorless, 3 generic, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Target opponent loses life equal to the exiled card's power. Again, this is very expensive, so you're paying 7, but at least this time you're getting a 6/8. If nothing else, it's a really good blocker and can kind of get in there and pound some damage out, maybe make your opponent chump block. So as a creature, it becomes a little bit better. as far as the ability goes, again, the ability is kind of hit or miss. If you have the right deck, it's awesome. So imagine playing a ramp deck with lots of big Eldrazi or big creatures, and they end up in your graveyard. Your opponent destroys one or two of them, and then you can go ahead and just start flinging direct damage at your opponent from the graveyard. Okay, that's awesome. So in the right deck in Limited, this becomes amazing. This is a huge bomb. If your deck doesn't do that, it's still a good card. It's just going to be top end of your curve, and you just got to be prepared that you don't have any other good top end if you're playing a card like this. Reckless Bushwhacker, 1 red, 2 generic. This is a Goblin Warrior ally with surge cost of 1 red and 1 generic. It has haste, and when he enters the battlefield, if the surge cost was paid, other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. It's a 2/1. So paying 3 for a 2/1 with haste, not super exciting. Paying 2 for the surge but having to cast something before that is still not super exciting, even if it's a 1-drop. But the reason this card exists really is because of its ability. Maybe a little disappointing though that it's not giving trample or something like that to really just make sure that this card's going to be able to get damage across, or enough damage across to your opponent if you're playing it in your deck. So I'm not super thrilled with this one. Now it's still an ally. It's a economically costed ally, so some decks might play it in Limited just because of that. But I don't know, I'm not super happy with the card itself, again, unless I was going really wide and my deck was super dedicated to that strategy. Tyrant of Valakut, 2 red, 5 generic for a 5/4 dragon with flying, has a surge cost of 2 red and 3 generic, and when Tyrant of Valakut enters the battlefield, if its surge cost was paid, it deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So again, it's kind of hard to evaluate some of these surge cards without knowing what the 1-drops are, what the 2-drops are. If there's things that are enabling the surge, it's going to become much better. Now, having said that, paying 7 for a 5/4 flyer in Limited, yeah, it's going to be just fine. Especially in this format, there's not a ton of flyers, so having a big flyer on the board actually can be a big deal in Battle for Zendikar format, and I assume will be the same when we add Oath to it. And hey, if you get a free lightning bolt out of it, that's pretty cool. Nothing wrong with that. So yeah, it's still a very good Limited card. Next we have Gladeheart Cavalry, 2 green, 5 generic for an Elf Knight. This is a 6/6 and it has support 6. So when they enter the battlefield, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 6 other target creatures. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, you gain 2 life. Again, you would really have to be dedicated to going real wide with a card like this. This might be okay in a commander deck that's doing that. It might be okay if you draft a deck that's going to go really wide. This card could be top end of your curve and could be a nice little touch. But if you're not going super wide, it's a 6/6 with no evasion for 7. 2 of it on color, not very exciting. It's just going to fit in the right deck. Now, a lot of these cards that I'm saying need to fit into the right deck, they're at the rare slot, so it makes me feel like Wizards knows what they're doing. These are probably going to be good cards in the format. We just haven't seen all the cards yet to really know how good they're going to be. Next we have Science Summoner, 1 green, 2 generic, Eldrazi drone 2/2 with Devoid, and when this enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token onto the battlefield. It has a sacrifice this creature and add colorless to your mana pool, 1 colorless. So this is value. I really like this card a lot. It's at the common level, but for 3 you're getting 3 power and 3 toughness on the board. That's awesome. It feels a lot better than the 2/1 haste creature for 3 to me. So yeah, this is a card that I really like in Limited, and it's going to help you with that strategy to go wide as well by giving you a token, or it also could help with that Eldrazi ramp strategy by turning that token into mana. And the last card of the day is Jori and Rune Diver, 1 red, 1 blue, and a generic for a 2/3 legendary Merfolk Wizard. And whenever you cast your second spell each turn, draw a card. Again, hard to say if this is going to be great or not. Just we don't know what the cheap spells are yet. If the cheap spells are worth putting in your deck to enable these type of effects, then a card like this could be really awesome. It's really going to help you dig through your deck. As far as other formats, this could be a good commander card. I probably wouldn't make it my commander, but in the right deck, if I'm playing a lot of cheap spells, maybe some 0 casting cost artifacts, stuff like that, this is going to help me dig through my deck, and I like that a lot. So this could be a very fine commander card, and like I said, we still haven't seen what else is in Oath. I mean, maybe we'll get a bunch of 0 casting cost cards or something. Who knows what we'll see. And if that's the case, all these surge cards and a card like this, of course, become much, much better. So, but so far, Jury's still out on this particular one, but at the end of the day, you're still getting a 2/3 for 3, so that's not always a horrible thing in limited, even though it is 2 different colors you have to use to cast it. So having said that, those are the spoilers for today. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow and every other day that spoilers show up. So as always, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day.
Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality videos for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a good day.